Okay, so we are going to build a simple Tic Tac Toe app using React. And to get started, I'm just using this Create React app approach. So you can go ahead and just follow these instructions to create your React app and change into that directory and then start the project. So I'm going to jump over here where I already ran that command, and I'll just type npm start to actually launch it. And it should just take a second or two, and then once that loads, you can see here what it should look like. So this is the basic create React app approach. Now I'm going to create a Tic Tac Toe component here. So you can see I already have this directory that I created, Tic Tac Toe. Now in this directory, I'll create tic tac toe.js, and then I'll create a style sheet too, so tic tac toe.css. And we're only going to do basic styling in this, nothing too advanced. In the Tic Tac Toe component, I'm going to run a snippet. So I'll type RAFCE, and you can see here this is coming from the ES7 React snippets extension. So you can install this in Visual Studio Code as well. So I'll press tab, and then it auto generates this block of code, which is very helpful. And I'll just type a header to confirm that this is working. So h1 tic tac toe, and then I'll import that here. Let me delete all this stuff. Tic tac toe, save that, and then over in our site you can see tic tac toe is now showing up, so that's great. Now let's actually start creating the game. So first, what I want to do is create a table. So I'm just going to create a table here, and then a T body, and then we want 3 rows. This will be a 3x3 grid for tic-tac-toe, and then before I create each row, I want 3 cells inside of that. So I'm actually going to create a new component called cell, and that will be created with an arrow function as well. And here I'll just return a TD, and then let's just put a dash there for now. So now I will create the cell component here, or just use it, and then let's copy this a couple times. Okay, so now we have a 3x3 grid, and if I jump over here, you can see it showing up here in the top left, and it's a little hard to tell, so let's add some styling to make it easier to see. I'll drag the CSS file here to the right, and let's just go ahead and say table td, and then we'll give it a border of solid gray and maybe a width of 100, height of 100. So I'll save that and make sure both files are saved. Oh, okay, I need to import it. That's why it's not working. So import tic-tac-toe.css. Okay, great. So now we see it showing up right here. And maybe I'll just center this as well. So I'm going to give the div a class name of container, and then up here, let's go ahead and do container. I want to use flexbox, so I'll say display flex, and we'll say flex justify content center. Save that. Okay, great. So now we see it showing up in the middle. And the next step is we're going to start introducing some of the gameplay. So for tic-tac-toe, we want to handle a click each time one of these cells is clicked. So I'm going to create a function called handle click. So const handle click is an arrow function, and we're going to call this here. So maybe I'll actually declare it up above, and we'll say td on click, and then we want to trigger that function. So let's go ahead and just add an alert here to confirm that that's working. So jumping over here, each time I click on a cell, you can see the alert pop up, so that's good. Now we want to actually track which cell is being clicked, right? So I'm going to pass a prop to each of these components. We'll call this num. So for example, num equals 1, but I'm just going to say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this way we're tracking which of the cells is being clicked. And I'll pass the num here and then here as well. And we actually want to destructure it, so you need to wrap it in brackets because it's being passed as a prop. And then passing it here, and then we'll say alert num. And now jumping back to the page, each time we click, it says which cell is being clicked. Great. Okay, so we want to track alternating turns in Tic Tac Toe. So to do that, I'm going to create this hook up here called const turn set turn equals use state x. So by default, the first player will use x to start. And to use this use state hook, I need to import it up above as well, just like that. So what I'm going to do is just type turn and then turn like that, and then you can see turn x show up here up above. So that's good, but we want to actually add functionality that will change this each time a cell is clicked. So what I'm going to do is add some logic here that says if turn equals x, which it does by default, then we will set turn to O, and then else we will set turn back to x if the turn is O. So I'll remove the alert and just save that, and let's see what it looks like. So I'll click, and there we go. We can see each time you click on a cell, the turn changes. And we should also note that we actually want to track which items are being clicked. So to track the items that are being clicked, I'm going to create a new state variable up here called const cells set cells equals use state, and then by default what I'm going to do is set this to an array of 9 items because it's a 3x3 grid, and then I will fill each of those items with an empty string by default, and then eventually that will either be x or O depending on what is clicked. So down here in our function, what we want to do is actually say let squares equals and then the spread operator cells. So basically we're just copying this array into squares, and then down here we can say squares num equals x if x is clicked, or if it's x's turn, and then squares num equals O if it's O's turn. So I'll save that, and then down below let's just console log the squares, and that way we can see who's being clicked there. So I'll go ahead and save that, refresh, and when I click, you can see the number cell that is clicked is being populated with either X or O, depending on whose turn it is. So one thing we're missing though is that we actually need to update the state variable. So I'll say set cells to squares, and that way it will maintain that item in the array and remember what is clicked. So we'll refresh, click again. Great, and now we can see it's remembering each item that is clicked with either X or O. Okay, so now that we are populating that data in an array, we actually want to display it in our grid. So down here in our cell component, I'm going to get rid of the dash, and then instead we'll say cells num, and I will save that and come over here, and when I refresh, you can see each time you click, it will display whoever's turn it is to initiate that click. One thing we need to fix though is handling a double click, so we don't want to allow someone to click the same component twice. So up here I'll just say if, let's see, cells num is not an empty string, then that means there's already something there. So we'll say alert already clicked, and we will just return from this function. So now when I save that and refresh, you can see if I click the same cell twice, it'll alert already clicked, and it won't change this to an O now. So great, so we fixed that. Um, the next thing we want to do is actually handle the winning logic of this game. So I'm going to create a function called const handle, actually I'll call this check for winner, and this will be another arrow function. And what we want to pass here are the squares, and I'm going to check each time someone clicks. So down here I'll just say check for winner squares, and I'll remove the console log now, we don't need that. Now in this function there are various combinations of winners. You can go up, down, left, right, across. You just need 3 in a row, right, for Tic Tac Toe. So I'll create an object called combos, and then we have across and down, and we have diagonal. So these are the 3 ways to win a Tic Tac Toe. Now, what are the spots of those items? So it can either be the first, second, third across, or you can do the third, fourth, fifth across, or the 6th, 7th, or 8th across. So these are just the positions, either 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And if we look at down, we can just use this as a reference and say you can have 0, 3, 6 is a winner, as well as 1, 4, 7, and 2, 5, 8. Great. And then diagonal is a little simpler because we just have 2. So we'll just say 0, 4, 8, and we'll say 2, 4, 6. Okay. So now we have our different winning options. Now what we need to do is loop through each of the items in our squares array and check if any of them match one of these patterns, and that way we can determine if there is a winner. So I'm going to loop through each of these combinations and see if we have a winner. So to do that, I'll come down here and just say for let combo in combos. So for across, down, and diagonal, we want to look at each of these arrays. So we'll say combos, combo, and then for each pattern, and then we'll just do an arrow function. And for now, let's just console.log the pattern just to show you what it looks like. So I'll save that, refresh, and then when I click, you can see it's checking for combinations in each of these directions. And that's what we want to look for. So the first thing to check is do we have items in each of those squares? So we'll say if squares pattern 0 is empty, or, and then I'll just go ahead and copy this, and we'll check the item at the second position, and we'll check the item at the third position, because there's always just going to be 3 positions for each of these arrays. So if there's an empty string in either one of them, then we can't have a winner. So we'll just do nothing here. Else if, and then we're going to check for something else. We're going to check for if the first item equals the second item here, and then we also want to check if the second item equals the third item. So make sure you have the right thing copied here. I'm just going to make sure I copy everything with the right brackets involved. Okay, so the item at the first position equals the item at the second index. Okay, so in this case we have a matching pattern. So what we want to do is declare the winner, and let's go ahead and actually create another useState variable for winner. So I'll say const winner set winner, and then we'll say equals useState, and this will just be null by default. But in this case we would say set winner, and we'll say the winner will just be whatever letter is present. So we can just use that first item here. And if I come down here, maybe we can just display the winner somewhere here. I'll go ahead and put it below the table and say, if there's a winner, then what we want to do is display a React fragment here, and we'll say paragraph winner is the winner, and then we'll also have a button here which will restart the game, but we'll add that logic in a second. So I'll just say play again, save that, and then refresh. So let's test this. I'm clicking here, trying to get X down the middle, and there we go. X is the winner. So that's looking good. We obviously have some weird styling, so I'll need to work on that, but at least the logic looks like it's working. Let's clean up this styling a little bit. We need to clean this up. I'm going to bring the style sheet over here, and let's say flex direction column, so now everything should be on its own level, and maybe I'll just give this a width of 500 pixels. Okay, that looks good. And if I do align item center, see how that looks. Okay, so now it's looking a little cleaner. Let's just test this one more time too. I'll test across. Okay, great. So now it's saying O is the winner because we got 3 in a row across here. So that's looking good. And now we just need to add the play again functionality here. So let's come down here and just say when the button is clicked, we'll have this onClick function, and we'll say we want to handle the restart logic. Handle restart. So let's create that handle restart function up above here and do another arrow function. So what do we want to do with handle restart? Essentially we just want to set the winner to null because there's no longer a winner. So reset that, and then remember up above for the cells the default was just an array of 9 empty items, so we can actually just copy that, and then that way we can restart the cells that are clicked. So back here I'll say set cells and then paste that, and now let's try it. So refresh. Let's try diagonal this time. Okay, cool. So we got X diagonally, and X is the winner. Now when I click play again, this should disappear because it should only show when a winner is present, and then hopefully each of these cells will reset as well. So I'll click play again, and there we go. Great, so this looks like it's working pretty well. So you can just kind of test this, you can add some more styling. I'll paste a link to the GitHub repository so you can access all of the code, but I think this is a pretty good straightforward implementation of Tic Tac Toe. But please let me know if you have any feedback, and also I have more tutorials on my website, learncodebydoing.com. There's a couple Udemy courses on here right now, and I plan to add more in the future, so if you like this tutorial, please take a look, and thanks for watching.